everybody, welcome to my talk today, Nursing Interview for Course Funding, and this is part of my Nursing Career Series. It's free to subscribe on my YouTube channel, Support and Career Development for Nurses, for lots more videos linked to nursing careers. And I am doing a PhD at the moment, so I know how hard it is trying to find and secure funding for courses. So I really hope this session helps you. Do bear with me, I've got varifocals, I've got new glasses, so I'm a little bit like this and this to make sure I can see. So I hope you enjoy the talk today. So I'm going to go over two key areas. The first is to help you with your background research for your interview, and the second will be preparing for potential interview questions. I also have a lot more information in my book, How to Prepare for Interviews and Develop Your Career, with example questions and background reading. And if you can't afford the book, you should be able to get it in a healthcare library. First thing to say is well done. You've done brilliantly to be shortlisted for an interview. Often these sort of funding opportunities are very competitive and it can be quite hard just to get shortlisted. So that's a massive achievement. And you'll also have a personal statement that you know got you to at this stage. So you can use that as a future template. So well done. So the start of your preparation is establishing what type of interview you've been called for. Is it a face-to-face panel interview? Do you have some scenarios or a simulation? Is it a value-based interview, or do you have a short presentation? And try and allocate as much time as possible within the reality of life on preparation. If you have a presentation, I've got some key tips for presenting in a nursing interview in my YouTube video. So that's helpful for those of you that might not have education courses, for example. Value-based interview, the interviewer will usually start with a generic question. So it may be something like, give me an example where you led a positive change in practice. And then you will be expected to give an example, and it should be something that you've actually been involved with, not something that you've just observed other people doing. And then it will be followed by further probing, drilling down questions according to what you say. So an example might be, the interviewer may say, you mentioned that this change had an impact on patient care. How do you know it had an impact? How did you evaluate the impact? So you must choose a real example, an authentic example, because if it's made up, you'll get into a real muddle in the interview because it will come out. So you need to be able to recall that example. And with value-based interviews, usually it's only one or two questions that will be asked. So in summary, interviewers expect a relevant example that demonstrates your understanding and practical application, not a scenario you observed that other people led. And without specific detail and being concise, your answer will be rated as low. So a key tip here is to spend time choosing and reflecting on best examples and achievements before a VBI interview. So tip one, that your background research, very, very important. So looking methodically, what I would start with is looking at the funding opportunity and what it entails. What are they actually offering, so that you're not asked an embarrassing question where you can't answer and say, if they ask you about study leave or the days that are being offered or the training program that's being offered as part of a funding opportunity, that you don't understand or know, and that you haven't read thoroughly what you're applying for. They might ask you if you're applying externally for funding or for a course that you've proactively found yourself. You need to know the course fees, the university, what the course content is, because you may be asked about that. So review all the guidance, make notes. If you're not sure, contact the funding institution or a university institution if it's about a course. Reflect on the values and what they mean to you, and how the institution is organised and its history. Now, I say that because as a PhD student, I applied successfully for some funding from the Barber's Company Clinical Nursing Scholarship in the UK. And the night before my interview, I was sitting with my husband saying, why on earth are barbers linked to a nursing scholarship? I hadn't got a clue. And I was fascinated. I went online and I looked, and there used to be these guilds of barbers. They've initially resided in monasteries, and they used sharp blades to do people's hair. And I think initially the priests or the monks would be cutting hair for the tonsure at the top of the head for the friars or for the monks, and that moved over to other barbers outside the monasteries doing hair, led them to move to doing minor surgical procedures. So it's fascinating, and there was all this history behind the actual scholarship. And in the interview, a medic said to me, "What do you know about our Barber's Company?" And I was able to reel off all these facts because they were fascinating, and I think I quite impressed them at interview. So you never know what you're going to be asked, but if you know about the history, the vision, the values of the funding institution, it shows that you've done a bit of groundwork. And the sort of questions that this background research might link to is, what do you know about our charity? What do you know about this funding opportunity? You might be asked, tell me why you applied for this funding opportunity. Now, if you don't know what the funding opportunity exactly is, it's quite difficult to answer that question. What do you hope to achieve with this funding opportunity? Again, you can't know that without knowing what it's going to offer you. How does your course run? Some more background information, key terms and definitions. So it might be that the funding charity is patient related. They may be supporting person-centred, evidence-based care, improving patient clinical outcomes or the quality and standards of care. So knowing what some key terms are around those areas will help you if you're asked to give an example or to talk through how you're aligning your course or your project to those themes. So looking at risk assessments, audits, quality, service improvement. If you're asking for funding for a quality improvement project, you need to know, well, how you're going to evaluate progress, and then teaching leadership theory or health promotion, again, depending on the type of opportunity funding that you're applying for. So typical a question, maybe give me an example where you have led or influenced or you plan to promote person-centred or evidence-based care or quality standards. Local and national systems and standards of care are important around the area, the course that you're applying for, the subject area, the type of project that you're applying for funding for, depending on what you're looking for. So there may be national safety standards, professional standards, any local key performance indicators or evaluations or audits, recently published CQC reports, national risk assessments, incident reporting tools or guidance. If you're applying for a post-registration specialist course in an area, say oncology, neurosciences, stroke, there will be potentially national clinical excellence, NICE guidelines. There could be national benchmarking standards for stroke, diabetes. It depends on what area you're looking at. You need to know how it's measured in that area, because sometimes you'll be asked what national guidance underpins this course or project. How will you measure success? What outcomes are you aiming to achieve? Or it could be, what standards are you going to be adhering to? What national standards? And then looking at the roles and responsibilities and your timeline. So understanding the roles and responsibilities of everybody linked to that funding opportunity. So some funding opportunities are linked to training opportunities. So for example, a research training internship, or studentship or lectureship, they will offer a training program, but also some one-to-one or some group teaching and support and supervision potentially. And if you're looking for a course and fees, who's going to support you on that course? What lecturers? How is it sort of set up for you to ensure that you complete that timeline on time? And then current hot topics, so reviewing topics and issues within the field or across media, professional journals. So some questions linked to that background research. What will you do if you're struggling? How long will this take? What do you think of? And then they could be a debating question or of a contemporary issue that you need to discuss. So my second key tip is prepare for questions. This is the most important. Think like an interviewer. The three things an interviewer is looking for when they're looking at allocating funding is firstly that you understand what you've applied for. Why should we offer this person funding if they haven't bothered to look into the course they're applying for and what this funding opportunity is offering? And rightly, because there's not funding for everybody. The second thing is that you have the knowledge, skills, competence to complete. They don't want to waste precious funding and you not complete. Additionally, they don't want to set you up to fail and cause you distress. And sometimes feedback given is that you need to wait a year or do another training program before we would offer you, I don't know, a studentship, a research studentship to complete a master's. It might be, and that might be very helpful advice that you need to listen to, because they don't want to cause you that distress that you would be struggling to complete that course and use that funding opportunity. The third thing they're looking for is that you're the best candidate for the role, and that sounds very harsh. But that's what the interview process is doing. It's differentiating between candidates. We don't have enough funding for everybody, so those questions to provide a stronger personal statement and a stronger answering questions. It's about giving them evidence of impact. And what you're doing in your current role as well is helping to provide stronger answers with your examples. And my previous video on how to write a personal statement for a funding opportunity, that's a similar thread, that you've got key examples where you're marketing yourself. I'm the right person. I deserve this and I'm the right person. You're marketing yourself when you're answering these sort of questions. So a few example generic questions along with the earlier slides where I put some questions on the bottom of those slides. Why have you applied for this funding opportunity? What do you know about our institution, charity, bursary? What led you to apply for this course or lead this project? So all the background reading will really help you answer those questions that I mentioned earlier on my slides. Tell me what you know about, and that will link to the funding opportunity, the course or the project that you've applied for. What do you think you will need the most support with? What transferable skills do you hold that will help you? Could you give me an example where you have delivered, you've led, you've influenced, and explain how this impacted on patients, staff, or how this was evaluated? Can you give me an example where you have led a team, influenced change, promoted, delivered? It depends on the themes of the funding opportunity. And as I mentioned earlier, those practical examples, I've given you some example narrative to help you with answering those sort of questions. My video, 5 Ways to Influence Nursing Practice, has got some really simple practical examples that you might not think of. The simplest ideas are sometimes the best, like Hello, My Name Is, that is worldwide now, that initiative. But do check out the video because that might prompt some ideas for helping you to choose some good examples. Dealing with nerves, finally, it's normal to be nervous before, during an interview and after, while you're waiting to find out the outcome. Interviewers expect this, and it's the same whatever level of nurse you are. Let interviewers know if you're excessively nervous and they can support you or give you a little bit longer or get you a glass of water. Remember that you've done really well securing an interview, and interviewers are human and they want you to do well. So just ask for a little more time if needed, or ask them to clarify the question if you're not quite sure what they're asking. The key tip here really is to prepare, and the more you prepare, the more confident you'll feel. You can use mnemonics and memory aids potentially if you think you might go blank. So if you've got your practical examples, you might have 3 or 4 really good practical examples and you don't want to forget them, and you might use some letters to try and remember. But just do your best, put your interview in context, and you can apply again later. If you're not offered, make sure you request verbal feedback from the interviewer. They're not obliged to offer written feedback usually, but ask the interviewer some specific feedback. How could I have improved my answers? What was my strongest or weakest answer? When can I apply again? And don't spend time or energy dwelling on what if. This is a learning experience. Reflect on your interview feedback and it will inform your future preparation. I have been to lots of interviews for funding opportunities where I wasn't offered, and I didn't even get past shortlisting, but I've learned along the way. Once you get the funding and you're offered it, it's an amazing feeling because it's a lot of funding, a lot of money, for sort of module and training. And if you also have a funding opportunity where you have study leave, that's thousands of pounds if you're being paid your wage to have a day out. Not a day out, but a day study leave. So write the interview questions and feedback down, as it will help you with future interview preparation. You might also forget if you have an interview 6 months later, and it's also helpful to book a mock interview prior to your next interview. So the key tips to success in summary: allow time to prepare for interview questions, do your background reading, align those current practical examples, and ask for interview feedback if you're not offered the role. And it's all about preparation, preparation, preparation. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the YouTube comments and I'll answer all your questions. If you prefer to contact me one-to-one, you can DM me on Twitter or Instagram. And good luck. I really hope if you get through to interview that you're offered your funding. Let me know if you get that funding.